The revolution will not be televised.
Let's have some fun.
The revolution will be live.
Hello once again, watchers of good movies. My name is Nick Pell, and this is my review of Black Panther. Now, if you are somehow not aware, this is the last film that we are going to have before Avengers Infinity War in May, and I'm very excited for that. But this is the first character solo film that we've had since Doctor Strange back in 2016, where it introduces a character in a really fleshed out form for the most part. Chadwick Boseman is the star of this film. He plays the Black Panther, aka T'Challa, who is the king of Wakanda. We got to see him briefly in Captain America Civil War, and so this film seems to take place very shortly after those events, and so that's kind of where you can line up your time frame more or less. So the events of this film are probably happening more or less along the same point as Spider-Man Homecoming, if you want to put it in that perspective more. The first thing that really stood out to me and really impressed me and just got me hooked into this film right away is the Wakandan culture, because as soon as we get to see this whole city, this whole empire that they have built off of vibranium, it's just incredible to look at and just really, really fun. Just seeing the new technology which is being developed and just all this crazy futuristic tech that Tony Stark would probably just be amazed at. It's just really cool to see it on screen because it's just very innovative, very efficient, and it just looked fantastic with the CGI and special effects and everything of that sort. I also like that we got to get a little bit of a history of Wakanda as well. It didn't just throw us right into the events after Civil War. It showed us kind of how the vibranium rock that kind of hit the earth, what happened after that, kind of how Wakanda came to be, how it is today. And that was a really neat thing to see. Michael B. Jordan, he plays the primary villain of this film, Killmonger. He's introduced pretty slowly into this movie, actually. And he is actually probably one of the most well-developed villains that the MCU has had in quite a long time. Because we get to see his backstory, we get to see his past shown to us in a flashback at the very beginning of the movie. And then we get to see and learn kind of how he grew up, what he did, kind of what his purpose in life was, pretty much, and how he came to be where he is by the point that he's really fully introduced into the movie. And Michael B. Jordan, he gives a fantastic performance in this film. All the performances are really, really good. Michael B. Jordan, as this antagonist, you do kind of feel for him to some extent, because one thing that this film does really well is that it brings up social issues in regards to African Americans and racial issues, which I'm not going to dive into because I'm not nearly enough of an expert on it to speak to it well, but does bring up issues which are in the world right now in regards to civil rights and police brutality and things of that sort. And so his reasoning behind what he's doing makes sense to an extent. He's just going about it in a very, very bad way, and which is going to do more harm than good and cause him to become like those that he despises. And so that's something which is brought up throughout the course of the film, and it's something which makes him really stand out as an antagonist for me. Another thing which I really appreciate about this film, and something which bugged me about Guardians 2 and Spider-Man Homecoming, is that it does not just throw you funny moments just back to back to back to back. It has funny and humorous things throughout it, primarily more towards the beginning. It has jokes, and you can see the sibling camaraderie between T'Challa and his sister, who's the great inventor, as well as his friendship with his two protectors. And it works really, really well, and it establishes that bond between them really early on. But when things get serious, they get serious, and it works really, really well, and you don't have jokes just flying in your face, really just desaturating the situation. Thor Ragnarok, it's more of a pass because that is more or less a comedy action film for the most part. It knew what it was doing with that, but just didn't work for Guardians or Spider-Man for me. With this, it had a very good mixture of jokes as well as serious scenes that really just flew well together. I mentioned this takes place after the events of Civil War. I would have liked to see a little bit more connection to that film or some sort of lead up to Infinity War in this movie. It doesn't really do that for the most part. It takes moments dealing primarily with Black Panther and his father during the events of Civil War. It doesn't show any of the Avengers or the action battles or anything like that, but it shows basically his father's death and how that affected him more or less. And it doesn't really do anything else besides that to establish a connection with Captain America that we see. Because if you remember, towards the end of Civil War, we see that Captain America brings Bucky to Wakanda, and he is in Wakanda. We don't know what happens to him after that point, but in the Infinity War trailer that we've seen, it would appear that Captain America is still there. So we don't know what time these events necessarily are taking place during, and just how close they are to the end of Civil War and lead up to Infinity War. There's also a character which is set up to be a villain and has been set up to be a villain for a while, who just doesn't really do a whole lot throughout the film, and it's just kind of taken away pretty early on, about midway through the film, and it just seemed like it was kind of a waste, and maybe they just didn't know what to do with this character. And instead decided to focus more on Killmonger, Michael B. Jordan's character. It might be giving it away just by my description of who I'm talking about. But if you've seen the film, you probably know what I'm getting at. It just felt like kind of a waste of a character that's been built up for a number of years now. And for a character who has so much depth and, to my knowledge at least, length in the mythos of Black Panther is such an important character to that story. Martin Freeman is also in this film, and I actually really enjoyed his presence in this movie because it really just gave him something to do. He didn't just feel like he was just standing around doing nothing. There's a reason that he is brought to Wakanda, and you get to see him just basically be awed by this technology and then really start to end up being an asset to these people when shit hits the fan. And it's just really nice to see that happen because it doesn't just show that outsiders are going to just try to take advantage of this technology and use it for their own means. It shows, oh hey, if this guy's willing to work with us, maybe others will too. The action scenes are usually some of the best parts of this film as well. There's a train-esque scene which has been shown in a lot of the trailers, as well as a car chase in South Korea, which just is fantastic to watch because it's just very well CGI'd and choreographed and everything of that sort. Choreography in this film is fantastic, CGI is fantastic. Pacing is really, really fantastically done in my opinion, because there was not really a dull moment where I wanted to check my watch and see what was going on, see how much time was left in this film. I did it once, and that was maybe a little over 2/3 of the way through when there was a very short amount of time of downtime. But that's really about it. This is very much a film which just takes you and does not let your attention go for the majority of the movie, and that's really, really exciting to see because I was just really fascinated, really entertained for the 90% of this film. So guys, I would probably say Black Panther is probably one of the best MCU films to date. It's been a while since I have enjoyed an MCU film to this extent. I don't know if even Civil War got me this excited and just kept me as engaged and just really enjoying what I was watching on screen even this much. What they're able to do with this movie is just really, really incredible. And while I think it does start off a little bit slow, in like the first 5 minutes maybe, it does take some just slight getting used to the accents for me, just me personally, because I'm not around people with accents that often, and I think a lot of audiences might not be either. Once you really just dive into it, get used to it, it's an extremely fun ride. It's really well worth your time, and I definitely say check this thing out if you have not already. It's really, really good. So guys, those are my thoughts on Black Panther. Let me know yours in the comments down below. Did you like it as much as I did? Did you hate it more than I did? Let me know. Like, favorite, comment, and subscribe once again if you so choose. I'd appreciate it immensely. And as always, my people, my name is Nick Pell. And once again, keep on watching.